Johnny Cage wasted his best years on Hollywood. He was good at it, genuinely good. The moves were real, the commitment was real, the audiences were real. For a window of time that felt like it might last forever, he was exactly what the culture wanted, and the culture rewarded him for it. And then something shifted. The culture moved. The moment passed, and Johnny found himself on the other side of his peak, aware that something was wrong with the world, aware that the thing he'd built his life inside might not be sufficient for what was coming, but not quite sure what was coming, or what sufficient would even look like. That's where MK2 finds him, and that's where it finds you. Because you are Johnny Cage. Not metaphorically, not approximately, the film was built for you. For the generation that grew up on this franchise, that fed quarters into these machines, that watched the 1995 film and loved it without irony. The generation that absorbed a specific vision of what the world was and how it worked and what mattered, and is now old enough to feel the gap between that vision and reality. You wasted your best years on Hollywood too. I don't mean that as an attack. I mean it as the most important thing this video is going to say, because by the time we're done, you're going to understand why the confusion was never accidental, why the entertainment was never neutral, and what the time that remains is actually for. But before we get to you, let's start with Johnny. Johnny Cage is a Hollywood action star from a specific window of time when that actually meant something, not just famous, culturally necessary. The man whose face on a poster was an event, who seemed to embody something Western culture wanted to believe about itself. The moves were real. The commitment was genuine. But underneath all of it was a gap. He didn't fight. He played fighting. The physicality was real, but the stakes were always simulated. The danger was always controlled. The victory was always already decided before the cameras rolled. The image of strength rather than its substance. This didn't matter for a long time. The image worked. The gap stayed invisible, as long as nothing arrived that required the real thing. Then something arrived. That's MK2. Now the first Mortal Kombat gave you Cole Young, the chosen one, hidden bloodline, latent power, cosmic destiny. He's aspirational. He's who you'd want to be in this story. But Cole Young is not who the audience is. Johnny Cage is. The decision to hold Johnny back from MK1 to reserve him for the sequel isn't a creative limitation, it's a design choice. MK1 builds the world, MK2 puts the audience inside it. Johnny appears at the end of MK1 as a promise, a name, a hint, and the audience that grew up on this franchise doesn't need an introduction, they've known him for 30 years. MK2 doesn't introduce Johnny Cage, it delivers him. And what it delivers is a mirror. A man shaped by Hollywood, past his peak, lost, and well aware that something is wrong, who discovers at the critical moment that the power was inside him all along. The green glow, the shadow kick, the crowd erupts. It wasn't wasted, you weren't wasted, your best is still ahead. That's the sequel's subtextual promise to you. And here's the thing. The generation that's going to fill cinemas for this film, Gen X, older millennials, the people who were actually there in the arcade, they really are Johnny Cage. Not just in spirit, in timeline. They hit their peak inside the same culture he did. They built their identity inside the same Hollywood spectacle. They absorbed the same image of what strength looked like and what a fight worth having looked like. And now they're somewhere around the same age he is in this film, past the moment that felt like it would last forever, tired in ways they didn't expect, wondering if the best of it is behind them. And they're about to walk into a cinema and watch a version of themselves find the glow. Relive the glory days through a character who mirrors their exact trajectory and get told that the years weren't wasted, the power is still there, the real fight is just beginning. That's not entertainment, that's a message, aimed with precision at a specific exhaustion. It's the kind of message that will get you back in the cinema seat. To understand who Johnny is speaking to, you have to understand what happened to the people he's speaking to. The Cold War ended, the West won, and for a specific window of time in the 90s, everything seemed to confirm it. The economy expanded, technology arrived promising liberation. The future was being built in real time. Into that confidence came the entertainment culture of the 90s, and Mortal Kombat understood something its competitors missed. It understood that the generation growing up inside all this confidence was hungry for something that felt genuinely dangerous, not cartoon dangerous, something that didn't look away. The fatalities weren't a gimmick, they were a promise. This won't protect you from what it's showing you. And then there were Sonya, Katana, Melina, Jade. Let's be honest, the combination of extreme violence and skimpy female fighters that was aimed with precision at the attention of young men, and it worked completely. A generation lapped up the violence, the women, the cosmology underneath it all, layered reality with hidden powers and cosmic conflict decided by combat and absorbed it as normal before they were old enough to examine it. That was the confident 90s. Then the confidence ended. The technology didn't liberate it, fragmented. The economy stopped working for ordinary people. The cultural confidence inverted. The phones arrived and took something that still resists naming, the capacity for stillness, for real thought, and being somewhere fully present and undistracted. Doom scrolling is not a metaphor. It's a behavior so widespread the name for it entered common language within years of the thing itself. People are tired in a way that sleep doesn't fix. In some Western countries, the conversation has shifted from how do we make life better to how do we make the exit more comfortable. That's the generation MK2 is releasing into. Tired, post-peak, aware something is deeply wrong. And into that exhaustion the film arrives with its message, you're not finished, the real fight is now. The power was always in you. At the exact moment that generation is most ready to believe it. Most desperate for it to be true. Here's where the word deliberately becomes important. The hunger Mortal Kombat fed the instinct that the world had a hidden layer, that the stakes were higher than the official account admitted, that instinct wasn't wrong. It was pointing at something real. Hollywood understood that instinct and fed it, not with truth, with product. Franchise after franchise, The Matrix, Terminator, X-Men, all built on the same architecture, hidden conflict, cosmic stakes, the fate of everything decided by the right person finding their power at the right moment. Now here's what that monomyth structure does to you. It tells you the power is inside you. The journey unlocks what was always there. The right crisis, the right pressure, and the latent capacity manifests. You were always capable of this. The circumstances just hadn't required it yet. This is not the gospel. This is a pagan self-transformation narrative, ancient in structure, present in virtually every mythology that predates Christianity, and located precisely in the one place the gospel says the power is not. Inside you. The gospel says you cannot transform yourself into what the situation requires. The crisis doesn't unlock your potential. The power is entirely external, entirely unearned, and comes at a cost you didn't pay. Hollywood took the silhouette of the real story and filled it with a pagan interior. Same shape, opposite content. The hero's journey puts the self at the center. The gospel removes the self from the center entirely. These are not compatible structures with different aesthetics. They are competing accounts of reality that cannot both be true. And a generation shaped by Hollywood's version arrives at the real conflict feeling ready, without being prepared. That feeling, that sense of engagement, of understanding the stakes, of being on the right side, replaced the preparation it should have produced. You felt ready, so you didn't prepare. That's what the machine was for. The story Hollywood keeps reaching for, the shape it keeps drawing, is real. The chosen one came, not to find his power through the journey, not to unlock latent capacity under pressure. He is eternally who he is. He came knowing exactly what it would cost. He paid it. And the decisive victory happened not in a tournament, not through combat, not through the green glow of a power finally manifested. It happened on a cross, which looked like total defeat, which looked like the darkness winning, and yet was not. Hollywood keeps drawing that shape because the shape is true and the hunger for it is real. But it fills it with the wrong content, the self at the center, the power inside, the hero who earns the victory instead of the one who already won it. The Bible describes a war, Ephesians 6:12. For we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but against principalities, against powers, against the rulers of the darkness of this age, against spiritual hosts of wickedness in the heavenly places. The war is real. The enemy is not human. The battlefield is not visible, and the preparation that matters is not martial. Mortal Kombat takes that architecture, unearthly realms, demonic powers, cosmic stakes, and relocates the decisive action to physical combat between human champions. Some may argue it's simplification, but it's actually inversion. The moment you decide the war is physical and winnable by human strength, you've oriented yourself entirely away from the actual conflict. You're watching the tournament, the real war is happening somewhere you're not looking, and you need to start looking. You don't need a geopolitical analyst to tell you something is wrong. You can feel it. 9/11 was a wake-up call. Now, the international order is fracturing. Wars aren't staying in their corners. Institutions are held together by confidence rather than substance. The demographic and cultural composition of Western nations changing faster than at any point in peacetime history. Serious analysts, the kind who write reports for governments, have been tracking for years the trajectory toward what they call a polycrisis, many crises simultaneously, feeding each other. Among the specific things they track is the potential reunification of Islamic political authority, the return of a caliphate, the explicitly stated eschatological goal of the doctrine, and the logical destination of trends already underway. This is not fringe commentary. This is in the literature of serious strategic analysis. The kind of analysis most people have no idea about because their time and thoughts are consumed by fantasy characters and mythological conflicts. But here's the biblical account, stated plainly. 1 John 2:22. Who is the liar but he who denies that Jesus is the Christ? This is the Antichrist, he who denies the Father and the Son. The defining mark of the Antichrist system is not atheism. It is a system that affirms God, claims relationship with God, presents itself as true monotheism, and specifically, as a matter of core doctrine, denies that God is a father and that he has a son. The system that matches that description occupies 1 in every 4 people on earth, 1/4 of the world's population, and its own scripture states this explicitly. Its eschatology describes a returning Jesus figure, Isa, who descends, breaks the cross, declares he is not the Son of God, directs the world to submit to the Mahdi, and presides over the elimination of those who refuse. The beheading of those who maintain Jesus is Lord, the caliphate established from Jerusalem. This maps onto the biblical description of the Antichrist system with a precision that should stop you. It's coming, and sooner than most people could imagine. Not as the fulfillment of Islamic prophecy, which is the inversion of the real account, but because the same events that appear to fulfill the counterfeit will fulfill the genuine. Here's what the conflict will look like on the ground. 4th generation warfare is the dissolution of the battlefield. No front line, no uniformed enemy. The population is the terrain. You've already watched it happen in Western cities and been given alternative explanations that prevented the pattern from being seen as a pattern. The pattern is a pattern. When the moment comes, when the doctrine's most serious adherents believe the last day has arrived, the question gets put to every Muslim in every Western city: submit and participate, or refuse and die. Consider what it means to genuinely believe in that moment that you are watching the fulfillment of everything your God promised. That history's final chapter is being written, and you have the chance to stand on the right side of it. The willingness to act in that moment is not a recruitment problem. It is sincere belief at the moment of eschatological activation, and in every major Western city, that community is already present, and growing at a much faster rate than the natives are willing to reproduce. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions even, going neighborhood by neighborhood, suburb by suburb, door to door. Those within Muslim communities who refuse, who reject the Mahdi, who stand against it, will be among the first casualties. The moderate, who refuses, is more threatening to the narrative of inevitable divine victory than the armed Western resistor, because that refusal is apostasy. It gets purged first, then the Christians, the Jews, the secular resistors, convert, or face what the doctrine specifies. Now answer the question Revelation asks. Who is able to make war with him? Not with armies deployed in your own cities. Not with law enforcement, the scale exceeds what it's designed for. Not with political institutions. Liberal democracy cannot take the preemptive measures this would require without destroying itself in the process. And not with Johnny Cage's green glow. The conflict does not look like a tournament. It never was going to. And the framework Mortal Kombat installed the war is physical, find your inner strength, win the fight is not preparation. It is confusion, delivered at scale, during the exact decades when something else was possible. This is the part that makes no sense inside anything Hollywood ever sold you. Revelation 13, verses 9 and 10. If anyone is to go into captivity they will go. If anyone is to be killed with the sword they will be killed. This calls for patient endurance and faithfulness on the part of God's people. The instruction to the people of God for this moment is not to fight. It is to endure faithfully, even unto death. To go into captivity if that is what comes. To die by the sword if that is what comes. And to do so as a faithful witness, martyria in the Greek, which is where we get the word martyr, so that even in the moment of being murdered, the watching world might see what it looks like to know God and trust his power over death. This sounds like surrender. It sounds like the opposite of the green glow, because it is the opposite. It's also the only thing that actually works. Because the beast overcomes the saints. The text says so plainly, and it will happen exactly as stated. In the physical, visible, measurable sense, the system wins. And in winning, creates the conditions for its own final defeat. Every faithful witness who dies rather than deny Christ declares visibly, undeniably, in front of the watching world that there is something worth dying for, that the resurrection is real, that death is not the final word. Revelation 12:11. They overcame him by the blood of the Lamb and by the word of their testimony, and they did not love their lives so much as to shrink from death. Not by fighting, by witnessing. This is only thinkable if the resurrection is real, and God is trustworthy, and death is genuinely not the final word. If those things are true, the instruction is the most rational possible response to the situation. If they're not true, nothing matters anyway. The hunger was real. The instinct that the world had a hidden layer, that the stakes were higher than the official account admitted that was correct. It was pointing at something. You were right to feel it. But you were handed the wrong explanation, the wrong map, and the wrong preparation. The window for the right preparation is not closed. Not yet. Mortal Kombat 2 is going to make a tired generation feel like the glow is real and the best days are ahead and the years were preparation. It is precisely targeted. It arrives at exactly the right moment. And it is wrong in exactly the way that matters most. The cosmic war is real. The chosen one exists. The hidden power was revealed at the moment of greatest need. But the chosen one already came. The victory already happened. The power is not inside you, and the fight is not a tournament. Watch and pray, not watch and play. The time that remains is not for entertainment. It's for the kind of preparation that looks like nothing the franchise ever sold you. Quiet, costly, deeply unfashionable, oriented entirely toward a God who raises the dead and whose victory was a fatality to the powers and principalities, to sin and death, who held humanity captive, but no longer can. Johnny Cage wasted his best years on Hollywood. He built his life inside the image of strength rather than its substance, performed conviction rather than building it, and when something genuinely dangerous arrived, he had the glow, the feeling of readiness, the hero's moment. But it's just a fantasy. You were given the same years, the same instincts, the same correct sense that something was wrong beneath the surface of things, and Hollywood handed you Mortal Kombat and an endless supply of entertainment and 30 years of the image of the war rather than preparation for it. The difference between you and Johnny Cage is his story is already written. Yours isn't. The time that remains is not for the tournament. It is not for the glow. It is for the one who already won and who does not require your strength. Only your faithfulness. Johnny Cage wasted his best years on Hollywood. But will you? This was the Frank Fox being frank about how popular culture, Hollywood, and the entertainment industry invert the truth of Scripture to lead people away from Jesus Christ. If you like this content, please subscribe, click like, and hit the notification bell so you don't miss future uploads. And may God bless you in the knowledge of His Son, Jesus Christ.